My name is Maureen Mulhern. I'm the Director of Career Development. I'm so happy to see how many people came out today. This is great, especially the way the day started out. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. I wanted to welcome you on behalf of the School of Business, the Business Club, Professor Winship, and all of the business faculty, Sister Peggy Scarano, and thank everybody for really making this a success program today. So before we get started, all of you when you came in should have gotten a survey, and if you didn't, just let Doris know, as she comes around, let her know that you need one. I would ask that you fill out the front of the survey before we begin, and then before you leave, if you could fill out the other side and either leave it on the table with the tablecloth where you checked in or hand it to me. We would appreciate that. We're always looking to get feedback and understand what you're getting out of the program. So to begin, I just want to introduce Sister Peggy Scarano. She is actually an alumni of STAC. She's on the Board of Trustees, and she's put a lot of time and effort to pull this program together today and get these wonderful panelists that we have to discuss the nonprofit world and what some of the differences are between nonprofit and for-profit. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Sister Peggy.
Okay, and I'll just add one thing, how the for-profit and the not-for-profit work with each other. Okay, so that's a couple of places that we're going to be going. All right, hi everybody, how you doing this afternoon? Did you enjoy the wind and the rain yesterday? No, okay, neither did I. It was a little windy and it was a little rainy, let me tell you. But here we are. All right, I'm going to start with this question. How many of you are freshmen? Raise your hand. Sophomores. Juniors. All right. And how many of you are our seniors? Oh my goodness, okay. And you're almost finished with the first semester of senior year. That's a scary thought, right? Yes. Well, as Maureen said, I am an alum of St. Thomas Aquinas College. I'm not going to, well, I will tell you what year I graduated. Actually, Dr. Murray stopped in, and these tables that you're sitting at, they were purchased when I was a very, very young nun. And they were actually in that room and then probably brought in here. Just a little bit of history when this extension. So these tables are still in existence and they are the still same chairs. So if you know anything about the history, we're talking about, I graduated in 1970. So just a few years ago. I look pretty good, right? I was advanced, you know, I went to college when I was 12. I'm only kidding. The other thing about these tables and why they're still in very good condition, you know that, I hope you know that this library is called the Lahey Library, and that is the last name of our sister Alfred. I'm a member of the Dominican Sisters, the other side of the campus, and she was the first librarian here at STAC and put the entire library together. Probably purchased these library tables, had something to do with it. And when I was a student here, we weren't allowed to use spiral notebooks. Can anybody guess why? Why do you think we weren't allowed to use spiral notebooks? They would scratch the table. You're absolutely right. So I don't know, do you use computers at this point, so I don't even know if spiral notebooks are still in existence. They are. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do for about the next hour, and that's why we wanted the room set up in this format, so that we could hopefully engage you in conversation to get some of your thoughts about for-profit and not-for-profit. I'm just going to give you some stats about nonprofits. Another question, how many of you live here in Rockland County? Okay, born and raised here in Rockland County? How many are from like Long Island, where there are other counties and whatnot, Suffolk, upstate, Orange County? Okay, all right. All right, the thing is that, here's a question. And it's a question to you, and we want an answer. Janet Charles is another one of our presenters, and Diane Saratori. You're going to be hearing more about the two of them. The three of us have this question. What's the difference between a for-profit and a not-for-profit? Okay, come on. What's the difference? What's your understanding of it?
We have one.
One makes money and one doesn't?
One makes money and one doesn't. Would you agree with that? For-profit, not-for-profit.
I would say no. Both? Yeah.
Okay? But they're both disagreeing with you. Anybody else? What's the difference?
The nonprofit money either gets funneled back into the organization to either sustain or they funnel over to other charities or organizations they work with.
Okay. Could you stand up and say that a little bit louder because you are right on top?
Sure. A nonprofit, any money they make, it gets funneled back into the organization or any of the charities or organizations they work with, any of the efforts that benefit the community around them.
Okay. All right. And that's a very good answer. And the for-profit world? Come on, business students. Take a guess. For-profit. Janet, you want to tell them what a
Oh,
for?
come on, you guys can guess, come on.
Yeah.
You guys are business, some of you are taking business classes. So basically, what the difference, which you were correct in what you said, the young man over there, and they both make money. So the goal for the nonprofit is to raise money and use it for the cause that represents. The for-profit, the money can then be used either on the employees or used for other purposes regarding with the corporation. So the for-profit is specific to, you could take that money and use it to benefit the company and others, whereas a nonprofit, any extra money has to go back to using it for the cause.
Diane, you want to add anything?
Basically, whatever money a nonprofit raises has to be funneled back into programs and services. We're currently undergoing our audit right now, so if we raise $3.6 million, we need to spend $3.6 million. And sadly, not on me.
Right.
We put all of our money back into the programs so that we make sure that the funds that are raised are used for the purposes that our donors support.
I work for a national nonprofit, same thing. We raise the money, and then what is raised, the majority of the money that is raised goes out for the purpose for which it was raised. Now, of course, a portion of it has to be used to pay salaries, to keep the lights on, to, make sure the computers are working okay, all of the operational. But that's what we're raising the money for. It comes in, it goes out. Right, and we'll be talking more about, like what Diane Saratori is the executive director of People to People. So she'll be talking a little bit more about what People to People does. The organization that I do, I'll be talking a little bit more about that. And Janet has been involved in the for-profit world, is now on the board and working with 2 nonprofits that she's going to be talking about. But here's another big difference. The not-for-profit organizations, a lot of times, most of the time, they provide services that government cannot. And anyone who lives in any county, even if you live in the Bronx or you live down in the city, there are not-for-profits that provide services that government is just not able to do. How many of you are involved in any of the Spartan volunteers like the Midnight Run? Taking food right down into the poor people down in the city, okay? All across campus, you raise supplies, for nonprofits. Has anything gone on campus, like for the hurricane relief over the past couple of weeks, okay? And that money was given to a not-for-profit in order to send money to the areas that have really been affected by all of the storms. So the nonprofits here, I'm going to talk about Rockland County, they range in size. Some of them might only have an executive director and then a slew of volunteers. That's how it functions. Others might have a much larger staff, but also depend a lot upon the volunteers. you know, that come to them and help out with all of them. There's all different types of nonprofits. There's religious, there's foundations, there's service, there's professional organization, education, recreation, arts and culture, health and human science services, housing, economic development, safety and emergency, civil and social, youth and child care, animal, the animal activists, the animal shelters, agricultural, political, environmental. So there's all kinds of nonprofits that if you were to look at your area, you know, where you're living, who is it that's providing services for a lot of the people that live in Rockland County, Orange County, Westchester County, and beyond, okay? So I'm going to turn this over to Diane, and Diane, if you could just talk a little bit about your background, how you got to be the executive director.
It's a mystery to me.
Yes.
I'm Diane Saratori. I'm actually born and raised and still live in Nyack, New York, and very proud of that. And this is another Nyack alumni, Yahoo. I actually went to journalism school, and my degree was in journalism when I got out, and then I realized I did not really want to work for a newspaper. And so I had a bit of a problem, what to do. I did work briefly at a for-profit advertising agency in Manhattan, but it didn't really resonate with me because it got to the point where I really didn't care what kind of aspirin somebody bought. You know, aspirin's aspirin as far as I'm concerned. So I stayed there until I was given an opportunity to work at the national office of the March of Dimes National Foundation. And I was there for 16 years, and I will tell you that the breadth and scope of opportunities in nonprofit organization is incredibly vast. They have a lot of different kinds of job opportunities, anywhere from researchers to writers to audiovisual technicians to executive directors to program services. There are a lot of opportunities in the nonprofit world. I will also tell you that things have changed. It used to be, you know, you went into nonprofits to be poor for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that nonprofits' salaries will ever come close really to top-notch Fortune 500 companies, but nonprofits are putting a great deal of energy and effort to make sure that they can compensate their employees, because we are dealing with very significant issues here in our county, in our country, in our world, and we need to make sure that we can compensate the talented people that we need to move that mission forward. People to People is Rockland County's primary hunger relief organization. For those of you from Rockland and from not from Rockland, I know it's hard to believe when you take a look around the county, but about 30% of Rockland County residents are considered to be food insecure, which means they're not quite sure where their next meal is coming from. And that's a very disconcerting statistic. That's about 10% of the entire population of Rockland. The one statistic that really concerns me greatly is 1 in 4 Rockland children live in poverty. That means 1 in 4 Rockland children live in families with annual incomes of less than $27,000 a year. You guys go to school here. You know, this is not an inexpensive place to live or work. So the idea of having to raise a family of 4 on $27,000 is really difficult. And that's why there are so many organizations in Rockland doing what they can to provide vital services to what we consider to be our most vulnerable citizens. The mentally challenged, the students, the underserved. Right now, at People to People, when I started at People to People in 2008, I worked at the March of Dimes for 16 years. Then I went to work for the Girl Scouts. And I'm glad I'm not there now, because this whole hullabaloo of the Boy Scouts now taking on girls, I'm glad I'm not there to deal with that. But then I worked with the United Way here in Rockland County very briefly before the position at People to People opened up. In 2008, when I started at People to People, they were helping an average of about 400 families every month. Every month, about 400 families would come in, get monthly food, monthly groceries, take it home, and put the food on their table. We're now serving and assisting about 1,500 families a month, which is a significant increase. I would say business is booming at People to People, and that's not good. As Sister Peggy did mention, we provide a lot of services here in Rockland, nonprofits, that government can't or won't. We all know taxes are high, and we all know that the government has to do the best they can with deciding where their resources are going to be. But one of the efforts that we put a great deal of energy into at People to People is advocacy. Because if we can't educate our elected officials about the significant needs in our community, then we're never gonna change where that tax money goes. And it is not an easy task, but it's we are undaunted. And I know Sister Peggy has been at many of these meetings too, and you're going, hey, what do you want me to do with $2,000? But one of the things that is really incredible here in Rockland is how the nonprofit organizations work together. Because we all have we all have our skill set. We all have the programs that we provide. And one of the things that the larger organizations are really looking at is we can't be all things to all people. So what we need to do is really focus on the programs that we can deliver with efficiency and effectiveness and work together. We provide food pantry assistance now for Joanio, for RCC, for Nyack Center, Haverstraw Center, Martin Luther King Center. We recently entered into conversations with Center for Safety and Change. Center for Safety and Change is an organization that deals with domestic violence, and they're great at that, so they should focus on that. They don't need to open a food pantry, and I'm not gonna open a Center for Domestic Violence, because it's not a wise use of the dwindling resources that we have. So that's one of the challenges in nonprofits is how to get the most out of your money, because people's lives depend on it. At People to People, we have a number of programs. Our food pantry is our major program. We are very involved in food rescue. I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but about 30% of all food produced in the United States ends up in the garbage. And it's perfectly good food. Might not be pretty sometimes. I call it eat ugly. Some of those fruits and vegetables are not the perfect thing, but people can still eat them. So we're working with the state and some other organizations to see if we can do food rescue. We also do Back to School with Dignity, which is a program that provides school supplies to at-risk children in low-income families, because we believe that education is a vital tool in breaking the cycle of poverty. And we think that everybody deserves a chance to start school with the tools they need to be successful. We do a holiday program and a Thanksgiving program and a clothing program, but our primary focus is to make sure that nobody in Rockland goes to bed hungry. And that's primarily what we do. And so far, unfortunately, the numbers keep going up, but because of the commitment of organizations like STAC and other nonprofits and for-profits, this community does try to work very, very closely together to make sure we get the resources we need to make sure that our services are able to be provided to the people that need it.
Okay. All right, we're gonna circle back to Diane, because I know some of the students right in this room are working with People to People right now, helping with your social media
Yes.
and your website and stuff, how you can get involved, you know, with the nonprofits. So, Janet Charles is a member of the Board of Trustees, and again, a native from Rockland, you know, from Rockland County, from Nyack, right? Right. Okay,
So a little bit about me. Janet Charles, as Sister mentioned. I grew up in Nyack. I wasn't born in Nyack. My parents came here from Haiti. Well, actually, from Haiti, they went to the Bahamas. From the Bahamas, I was born in the Bahamas, and they came to the United States back in the early 60s, and they came here with 5 children. I say that because since I was a child, nonprofit organizations have always been a part of my life. They've helped my family when they came here as immigrants to the United States. Some of the organizations that I recall working closely with my family initially were the Sisters of St. Agatha's. There's a out in Nanuet, in New York. My dad was a tailor. Eventually, when they settled down in Rockland, in Nyack, they had 8 children. So my parents raised 8 children on the salary of a tailor. So Catholic Charities helped us to make ends meet. I mentioned the Sisters of St. Agatha. The St. Anne's School is where I went, and I met the Serrators there. And they were, the sisters at St. Anne's and the priests at St. Anne's were very instrumental in helping our family. One thing my parents stressed with us growing up was education. So for us, it was important for us to go to school, get an education, and try to do better than they did with our lives. I wanted to be a social worker growing up. That was my goal, that was my passion, because I was always, I always benefited from other people helping me and my family, and I was always doing the same, where I would go out and help others. I used to sell cookies when I was growing up and use that money to help, maybe some of my neighbors who might have had something, some tragedy in their lives where the kids would go around and take collections. I did a lot in terms of helping people. So that was, like I said, was part of my DNA. I went to college and thought I wanted to be a social worker, but when you start looking at the salaries, like Diane mentioned, the salaries back in those days was not what the salaries are today. So I had to take out student loans in order to go to college, being that, my parents really couldn't afford to send me to college. So took out student loans, I worked and saved my money during, college, during vacations, holidays. I worked at Nyack Hospital during the summers as a unit secretary, so I did what I needed to do to make ends meet. So I find myself finishing college. I decided, social work is really not gonna help me in terms of paying the bills. So I decided that, maybe I should look at some other career that was going to be more lucrative. So I went to law school. Looked at different jobs that, I first wanted to be working at the DA's office. The salary wasn't the greatest there, or working as a public defender. So I found, I had an opportunity to work at a law firm, which I did. I was an associate in litigation for 5 years, left that, went to work for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where I was a trial lawyer. But I had children in between. I raised 3 children throughout my career, met my husband in college, and then, we had 3 kids and raised them. I also was focused on being, as an attorney and raising 3 children, I needed to focus on the type of environment that was going to give me a good work-life balance. I left, as a trial lawyer, I left that position and went to work for Mercedes-Benz USA, which is the corporate headquarters were based in Montvale, New Jersey. That gave me a really good work-life balance, and the salary was good, and it was a great opportunity for me career-wise. I was there for 16 years. And it was really a wonderful thing. The common thread that I want to share with you guys throughout all of my job opportunities, when I was working at the law firm right after law school, that I was a trial lawyer at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and then I was in-house counsel with Mercedes-Benz USA, is volunteering. We worked a lot with, one of the things that they encourage the employees to do is to volunteer. You had certain departments were allowed to take a day where they went off-site and volunteered, working with cleaning up the beaches, for example, down in the south, at the shore in Jersey. We did volunteer work where we went to soup kitchens and we helped pack some of the foods that were given out during Thanksgiving holidays and during the Christmas holidays. We held food drives. We worked with Habitat for Humanity, and with Habitat for Humanity, we actually spent 2 days where we were in Paterson, New Jersey, constructing the inside of a home that was going to be donated to people who were unfortunate and didn't have homes, maybe less fortunate. And so we were there doing nailing the wood into the floors, just doing whatever needed to be done. So volunteering through your corporation, you might be working for an organization that's a for-profit, but they, in conjunction with nonprofits, use their employees to give their time and talent to help those organizations. And I don't know if you want me to talk about this now or not, but as you move on in your career choices, you're going to find that there may be opportunities for you to volunteer at a nonprofit organization, and that might open a door for you to work full-time. When I left Mercedes-Benz USA about 2 years ago, and decided that, even though I spent all that time working, you made the money, you had the work-life balance, my children are grown now and all of that, but I really wasn't as fulfilled as I know that I could have been had I done the social work, which was what I really wanted to do. all along, throughout my career, I've always done volunteer work, I've mentored, I've worked with students, I've just done about everything that I could. And I always found that it was a lot fulfilling and it was very rewarding. So as you look at opportunities with nonprofit organizations or even a for-profit that you may end up working for a for-profit, you might want to make sure that you focus on what the mission of that nonprofit organization is. You find something that you're really passionate about. When you hear Diane talk about people to people and the work that they do, I could hear it in her voice how passionate she is about making sure that, you know, people don't go to bed hungry and that there's food, you know, on the table for those in Rockland that are, you know, having a difficult time. The for-profit organizations, you're gonna find that many of them have foundations. It's something that is part of their corporate responsibility. And with that foundation, they have funds that they then can take and use to help nonprofit organizations. The foundations are funded or are staffed by employees, either within.
And they're
the
our
corporation.
favorite employees.
Exactly, because they also have what's called a corporate match. So if somebody within a corporation makes a donation, a contribution to a nonprofit organization, most of the corporations have a corporate match where they will match the amount that you've given. If you give $1,000, even $500, that corporation will then match $500, so really that they're getting $1,000, and that goes basically in your name, and you can use that, you know, for tax purposes. But that shouldn't be the primary goal. Is for the tax benefit. It should really be finding something that you're passionate about, something, and there's so many different nonprofits out there. Sister touched upon some of them, but you have organizations that, nonprofit organizations, I think there's one that's called, and I'm gonna get it wrong because my daughter was like, no, Mom, it's not just do it, it's called, is it Do Something? Do Something. And Do Something, if you Google it,
Yes.
it's a fun, from what I've read about it, it's an organization that works with, that's a nonprofit organization. You have a lot of young people that are doing things, fun things that they like, and at the same time they're helping others and doing something good.
I just wanted to also touch a little bit on what we were talking about as far as corporate support. Corporate organizazations are vital to nonprofits. We get significant support from Orange and Rockland, Active International, Pfizer, TJ Maxx, all the banks. And they're very focused too on utilizing their volunteers, their employees as volunteers for nonprofits. Many of them look at it as team building experiences. They'll come in, they'll paint some walls, they'll put packages together, we've got some volunteers, and we're really looking for some really strong volunteers because once a week we have about 20,000 pounds of food delivered and it's got to get out of the truck. So great opportunities. Who needs to go to a gym, right? You have to come to people and lift cans. But there are lots of ways to make an impact in the community through the nonprofit organizations or the business organizations, because many business organizations are putting a great deal of energy and effort and time and talent and money into connecting with nonprofits because it provides them with an opportunity to show that it's a company with heart. And please, believe me, I'm sure you see, help Walmart feed people, help these people feed people. I'm not quite sure how that works, and we're still trying to figure that out. But again, there are lots of opportunities. You know, lots of folks think, oh, nonprofits, we used to call them the little church ladies, you know. It's a significant industry that makes a significant difference in the economy of not just Rockland County, but the country and the world. One of the things that Sister Peggy was talking about, every year the Institute for Nonprofit does, or not every year, every 5 years I think, does a study on the economic impact of nonprofits. The money we raise, the money we bring into Rockland from other parts of the country or world. The money we spend here on salaries, on printing, on O&R, and other things, and I don't know, but it's in the billions of dollars that we generate here in Rockland that gets spent in Rockland. So nonprofits really are an economic engine as well.
I think also, just to take from what Janet said about really knowing what the mission is, whether it's the mission of a not-for-profit or a for-profit. Why did people come into existence? Because, as Diane said, about all of the people that here in Rockland County that go hungry, all of the children that go hungry. Now, I'm just going to take a moment to talk about the not-for-profit that I work for. It's a national organization. It's called Support Our Aging Religious. The acronym is SOAR, S-O-A-R, exclamation point. Okay, we put that after it. What do? I have a background in fundraising for the past 31 years. After spending 20 years in the classroom and also as principal of a grade school, I got offered a job as a fundraiser. Didn't know what I was walking into, but I definitely found my passion. And for 28 of the 31 years, I was the development director for the Dominican Sisters on the other side of the campus, for my own community. I was raising money for our missions, for our mission in Pakistan, we had a mission down in Peru, for the ministries that we do here, not only in Rockland County, but throughout the United States. I'm now helping to raise money to support the men and women religious, the sisters, the brothers, and the priest, who are elderly, who are retired, who are ill, and the congregations needing help to take care of them, because we need to raise our own money in order to provide for the retired men and women religious. So that's what my job is. I meet one-on-one or two-on-one or small groups, help to put together some small receptions where we're inviting people to contribute to us and giving them the reason why. And again, it is a mission that I believe in. Now, that's my full-time job. And then there's two other boards that I sit on. One right here in Rockland County. I'm on the board for United Hospice of Rockland. And you know what hospice does. Hospice is with the person who is terminally ill, with their family, with their loved ones, and they provide the loving support and care as the person is dying. Another nonprofit board that I sit on, it's an investment fund where we actually invite corporations, individuals, yes, but more so corporations, to make loans to this fund, and the money then gets turned around. Again, the money comes in, the money goes out, right? And it's loans for projects that really benefit the poor. We have had many interns working with us from various colleges, helping us with the websites, doing marketing materials. And then, of course, Janet and I sit on the Board of Trustees here at York College, which keeps us busy. I'll just say that. It can keep us busy depending upon how much work we really, and how much involvement that we want to get. But I think one of the things that we need to get into is how important it is for the students to think about being involved in nonprofits. So I'm going to ask Janet to talk about two of the nonprofits that she's involved in right now.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I've always done volunteer work, and that's just something that I've been passionate about. After I left Mercedes, I now have more time and opportunity to do different things. I used to live right around the corner in Old Tappan. Now I'm living in Manhattan. And I see a lot every day. I see a lot of homeless people. There's just so much going on, and there's just so much work that has to be done. And I'm sure People to People probably grew out of the need that someone saw that people needed to be fed, and that's how a lot of these nonprofit organizations get started. I sit on the board of an organization called Girl Be Heard, as well as on the board for St. Thomas Aquinas. But Girl Be Heard is an organization that works with young women, and there are some men involved with Girl Be Heard as well. Girl Be Heard they have workshops. Most of the girls that are involved we go into inner city schools, and we have workshops where these young girls can, through theater, use their voice to talk about issues that they've dealt with. Everything from bullying, from cutting, from anorexia, bulimia, sexual abuse, date rape on campus. There's a lot of different social issues that young girls and some young boys as well are experiencing. And through Girl Be Heard, we put on workshops and then performances. We just had a gala at the World Trade Center about 3 weeks ago, where they put on a performance, and through the theater, they're able to use their voice to bring these issues to make others aware of what's going on. And it's not just that that this organization allows them to use their voice to talk about the issues. We then have social workers and counselors who then can work with these individuals to help them to find a way to get support and address the issues that they're dealing with. There's another organization that I volunteer at, and this is called Dress for Success. And some of you may have heard of Dress for Success, but what caught my attention and made me want to get involved with Dress for Success is that I'm a member of an organization called Corporate Council Women of Color, and this organization has a career strategies conference annually. And through the conference, we gather annually. We also we don't just come to have a good time and you learn about, you have panel discussions and other things, but one of the not necessarily requirements, but one of the opportunities during the conference is to volunteer in the local community where the conference is being held. Not too long ago, we were in Vegas and Nevada, and there was a Salvation Army where we had an opportunity to go to Salvation Army and to actually help prepare the meals and to serve the meals. And you sit down and you chat with those people that are coming in to eat. So, there's, through professional organizations, you have an opportunity to also volunteer through some of these nonprofit organizations. But going back to Dress for Success, there was a woman, an attorney. She was a prosecutor in the Bronx, and she was doing her work. She worked as an attorney for a number of years, and she had an opportunity to do some volunteer work at Dress for Success. Dress for Success, by the way, was started by a college student who got an inheritance of $5,000 from her grandfather when he passed away. With that inheritance, she took the $5,000, she rented some space in the basement of a church. She started buying suits, some from secondhand clothing stores, and she got her friends to donate suits that they may not have needed. And she started giving them out to the women in the community that she knew had job interviews that were too poor to either afford suits for the interview or just to have decent work clothes to be able to go to work. So this woman, this lawyer, prosecutor that I mentioned, she did some volunteer work at Dress for Success. She loved it so much that she decided to quit her job as a prosecutor and volunteer there full time. There then became an opportunity for her to be employed with the organization. Her name is Joy Gordon. She is now the president of Dress for Success, and now it's Dress for Success worldwide. She's taken it to the levels that it was never, initially it never started out as. You have Dress for Success all over. It's Dress for Success worldwide. It's all over the U.S. and in some of the third world countries as well. And what Dress for Success does, and what I do as a volunteer there, is I work with the young women. Most of them are referred to us by different agencies, like some of them are coming from battered homes or battered shelters. Shelters for battered women. Okay, some of them are women who have been incarcerated and now are trying to get back into the workforce. Some of them just happen to be, maybe very, very poor and just are using different agencies to be able to find employment. So these women are referred to us. They have an interview scheduled. They may come to us on a Monday. Their interview might be the following week. And what we do is there's a boutique at the headquarters down in Midtown where I work. It's on First Street. And in the boutique, the women will come, I'll sit down with them, I'll pull out different outfits and have them try it on. They put on these outfits, they're getting ready for their, and they basically outfit them from head to toe for their interview.
Right.
In addition to that, I'll sit down with them, look at their resume, go through the resume with them, do some mock interviews, and help them to get over their fear of, you know, or know what to expect when they go for the interview. Some of you probably I'm sure have gone through interviews, and one of the questions they ask you is, tell me about yourself. And some people may not know what that means or how to respond to that question. But that's one of the questions and one of the ways that we work with the women at Dress for Success. In addition to that, once the women get their job, they come back to Dress for Success maybe a week or two later, or make an appointment, come back, and we'll give them enough outfits to wear for a week, so they don't have to worry about what am I gonna wear tomorrow, it's my new job, I can't wear the same thing over. And I've found women that have come to me and said, I've never owned a suit before, oh my God, I can't believe what you've done to me, or how I've transformed. Women from all different backgrounds, and it just makes you feel very satisfied at the end of the day. Working for nonprofits, that's why I said it's important to find something that you're passionate about, because you can, right there at the spur of the moment, after you work with this individual, or with individuals or groups, they'll take the time to say thank you. You've made a difference in their lives, and it's really very rewarding and very gratifying. And in many cases, more so than, you know, working in some of these corporations where you're, you know, you may be making the money, but you're not getting any real joy or satisfaction just doing that alone. And
All right. I'm going to throw this out to, now I know that there are several high schools up here in Rockland County that it's with the dresses that you would wear to your proms. Isn't there like a give back to the school and to try to help other students get dresses? Hasn't that happened here?
We've worked a great deal
Yeah.
with different Girl Scout troops that do these things as
Right.
gold and silver awards. We have a closed closet. It's not nearly as
Right.
extensive as Dress for Success, but we have a lot of corporate volunteers who do donate suits, nice clothing. I'm gonna be honest with you, we get a lot of junk, you
Yeah.
know, but that's the nature of the clothing donation business. But we have client services, a director of client services, and we've got a client services staff of volunteers that know what our clients are going through at a particular time. So we have a closed closet that we put out, you know,
Right.
jeans and shirts, but we also have a section of professional clothes for people that need clothing to go on interviews. Very honestly, sometimes people need clothing to go to a funeral, or to a wedding, or to a prom. Right now, this past month, elementary schools have been donating Halloween costumes, because very honestly, if you can't afford to put food on your table, you can't afford to go to Party City and spend $30 on a cape. So, and you know, Halloween
Yeah.
costumes last like 1 year, because kids grow up. So we work with a lot of organizations like schools. Schools do coat drives for us. Churches do Senator Carlucci always does hat and mittens. Because these are things that people need that they just don't have the money for.
I guess the other way that we want to direct this, and maybe some of you, we're hoping that you participate in this, because I know for a fact that some of the students and students sitting right in this room have worked with some of the nonprofits to help do websites, to do any of the social media, get them onto social media sites that they might not have the funds to hire someone to do that. Now, Diane, is anybody sitting in this room who's now working with you?
We also
Yes,
have a lot
certainly.
of students, more so than web design, because we don't do that. We do public relations
Right.
and content building for sites that nonprofits already have. So we'll manipulate the sites a little bit, but I want to plug our upcoming event
Yay.
with Diane. So my social media, my public relations class, a lot of you are here, and the communications club is going to be working with Diane to help, children ages 0 to 18 get a holiday gift this year. So when all of you wake up on your holiday, Christmas or Hanukkah morning or mornings, and you have your nice gifts, imagine if you didn't. So if you're inclined to help, come on November 28th to Romano and give us a donation. And maybe you can talk a little bit about Project Joy.
Actually,
It's
the thing
timely.
that's I found very interesting, because when I got to People, they used to call this the Santa Project. And in 2008, I think it was like 400, 500 families. People would come in, donors will come in, adopt a family, get them the things that they need, then we get the stuff out to the family. And I was new to the organization, like, oh my God, this is quite a logistical nightmare. And I kind of want to just get rid of it. I'm like, we need to focus on food. And the donors were very, very upset that this is how they want to get involved. We call it like a gateway. Everybody wants to make sure somebody gets a holiday gift. But this is an opportunity for us to then do education around the serious needs of hunger. But I will tell you, People actually started not as a food pantry, but through the Santa Project. It was some folks that actually lived in Nyack. They knew some neighbors who were having difficulty at the time during the holidays. So they gathered a bunch of their friends together and they went out and bought Christmas presents for a series of families. And it grew from there. These volunteers, they were working literally out of somebody's garage. They realized then that these parents didn't just have difficulty getting holiday gifts. There were serious issues. They didn't have enough money to feed their children. So People went from, it started literally as a toy distribution, and it became, they realized that this really pointed to a much more serious issue, that these kids needed to be fed. Project Joy, when I first got to People, we wanted to make it more, non-denominational, although I keep saying Santa is not a religious figure, but what the heck. So we changed it from the Santa Project to Project Joy. And we are, in October, all of our clients, and just so our clients need to meet income eligibility. That's why we have client service people, that they come in and they need food, they get food, but we sit down with them and talk about their other needs, look at their income, what other services in the county can they access, what other nonprofits. Believe me, many of our clients have mental health issues. Mental health is a significant issue in Rockland and everywhere. But so our clients then fill out like Project Joy registration form. They explain what their situation is and why they're having difficulty making ends meet, what their personal challenges are, and then the kids write out wish lists about what they want for Christmas. Then we have donors come in and literally go through binders of these letters, and they pick a family. And then they go out and buy the things on the wish list for the family. Last year, 900 families registered for Project Joy. And when I first got there, they used to do this over at the Armory, and I know that, I didn't even know where the heck the Armory was. I'm still not quite sure where the Armory was, but they needed a place really, really big, because when they have 400 families, where do you put, say, 3 kids, that's 1,200 presents. So we weren't able to use the Armory. We located some other sites, and now Blue Hill Plaza, right up the road from here, donates 60,000 square feet of office space to us every December so that we can do Project Joy there. And it is, again, that's a significant corporate contribution. I'm sorry that they're not leasing it, but I'm so happy they're still not leasing it, because we really need the space. And what we're going to be working on with the class is raising awareness of the program, because the more people really get excited during the holidays, and everybody likes to buy stuff. But this gives us an opportunity to then educate those donors about the underlying needs of the clients. And we have found that people that get involved through Project Joy become significantly more involved with the pantry, because they understand that it's not just toys. It's about food too. So one of the issues we often find is everybody likes to go out and buy stuff for little kids, because that's fun. But we have a lot of families that have teenagers, and I know it's hard to believe, but teenagers do not want Candyland. I don't understand. We keep trying to give Candyland away and nobody wants it. So we're going to be really focusing on what can we do for teens, because teens deserve we always say put a smile on a child's face this holiday season, and we want to make sure that the teenagers are included in that as well. So we're working with these classes, they're putting together a PR plan, they're doing a SantaCon, a whole bunch of fun stuff. We're gonna be focusing on that for Giving Tuesday. The class, we have a Facebook page, I'm very proud of it, we have like 3,500 followers or something. But that's all I got. I haven't gotten our Twitter, or Snapchat, or Instagram. I'm the executive director, so I have some other things I have to do. But I am thrilled because this class is going to create platforms for us on the different social media opportunities so that we can make different and a larger portion of the community aware of what we do. So we're very excited about it. And then, in January, we'll be getting an intern. Because what's the point of putting together this great plan if there's nobody there to help implement?
Maybe more than one.
That would be so great. So we're incredibly excited.
So November 28th, it's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It's hashtag Giving Tuesday. It's the National Day of Giving. If you want to dress up in your holiday
Ensemble.
costumes or ugly sweaters, or I'll be
I was
dressed
a
as
little
Mrs. Claus, of course, but not like an old Mrs. Claus.
Hip and happening, Mrs. Clark.
Come to Romano. You can have some free food and maybe find it in your heart to give us your spare. Yay.
I have another question. As you were going through high school, I know some of you were seniors, so that goes back 4 years ago. Didn't you have to do service work? What are some of the things that you did that probably introduced you to not necessarily just people to people, but other nonprofits in whatever area, you live in? The high schools that you were going to. What were some of the service things that you did?
We helped raise money for people that needed surgery, young kids that parents couldn't afford to help the kids.
Okay.
We would help little kids read, like especially the ones with the disabilities.
Okay, right. What else?
It's similar to Project Joy, but I actually had a giving tree in my church where you actually pick off ornaments, and it's on the back of an ornament, it's a gift for a child, and you can go out and buy it and put it under the tree, and then it's distributed to like all these different shelters and homes for people.
Right. I know the parish that I go to up here in Rockland County, St. Aidan's, they do a food drive. They have their own food pantry, and it was amazing. You know, all of the contributions that you could make. The deacon actually got up one day and said, we really are inundated with all of the cans of vegetables or food like that, but you know what we really need? We need toilet paper. We need paper products, because food stamps, they can't use the food stamps
And they don't
to
cover
buy.
diapers either.
They don't cover diapers either. So stuff like that. So what they started doing at the parish was they actually put into the bulletin a slip of paper that said, this is what our food pantry needs. You know, so that people, and then you see them after the masses between Saturday night and Sunday, having the young people carry all of the donations over, because they have a building that they keep it in. And, you know, they work with Catholic Charities. I
Yes,
think,
we also work
Rockland.
with Martha and Catholic Charities.
Right.
We also, I will tell you, we see a lot of high school and college students at People to People because of servicing, so a lot of times for confirmation, for the
Right.
National Honor Society.
What-
We are incredibly flexible
Yeah.
because we don't
What
have a
other,
big
what
training
other
program.
services did you do while you were, I know you had to do it, whether it was a public school or a Catholic school that you went to. There were things that you needed to do in order to, you had to do a certain amount of hours, right? Yes.
In the for the National Honor Society, we had to do community service, and what I did, I went to my local library and I was a shelf reader. I would like spend an hour like on a given day and look through like the shelves in the adult section and make sure everything was in alphabetical order and that everybody can see like the titles of the books.
Wow,
I worked in the library too.
okay, that's good. Anybody else? Have any of you ever worked with one-to-one learning? Okay. as a teacher?
Yeah, actually, I work with the little kids. I babysit all the little kids while their parents are off learning. I actually just started this semester. I actually really like it, and I'm going to continue with it too.
Could you just say a little bit about it? About what one-to-one is and what drew you to it?
One-to-one learning is when we have people who don't, their first language isn't English, and they're trying to learn English, and it's mostly adults and kids above the age of 18 that go to these classes. And then they don't know what to do. They can't keep watching the kids while they're in this program, so they have all the kids go downstairs, and we have about, I want to say like 7 of us that are downstairs watching all the really little ones. A lot of them are bilingual, so they can talk with the kids, because I'm not bilingual, I can't. But actually, I'm an education major, so this was something that I actually connected with, so I thought it was a good idea.
And it will also look great on your resume when you go for a job. That's it, yeah. One-to-one learning also helps the new person into the country that is not a citizen to prepare for the citizenship test. And that's a very difficult test to take. I don't even know if I would be able to pass it. You know, sometimes when I look at what they need to learn. Anybody else?
Have any of you considered nonprofit management as I mean, some of the universities and colleges are offering that as a major.
Yes.
And today, the salaries are more than they were when I was going to school. So if that's something you haven't considered, it's something you may want to look into if you haven't, already done that. But nonprofit management is also a new career that is being offered at the colleges.
And it's a really growing profession, primarily because government is cutting back so much on what government services used to look like. Right now, actually, we provide services to the Department of Social Service, which is kind of weird to me. I thought it should go the other way around, but we do work together. But again, there's opportunities in the environment, in law, in education, in social work, in human services, in the arts. There's an organization called Leadership Rockland. Right. And they call it the master's degree in Rockland County. And they have several days during the course of the year. They'll have Environment Day, Education Day, Government Day. And on each of those days, the nonprofit organizations that have an impact in those areas are part of those days, because every single significant area that Sister Peggy mentioned, there are nonprofit organizations working in partnership with corporations and with government to make sure those services are provided. And it's getting tougher out there. So a lot of colleges really do focus. There's master's programs in nonprofit management, in fund development. If you can help raise money, you will find a job, trust me.
Right. All right, any questions from you or comments? One thing that you learned, make us happy. What did we teach you? Look at that smile.
Go ahead.
I don't know, I just learned a lot about nonprofit now. And it makes me want to get more interested in helping my community a lot more. And I thank you both for letting us do that.
Anybody else? All right.
Okay. So, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate your time. If you do decide you want to get in touch with any of these professionals, you can always come to me and I can put you in touch with them. I want to say thank you to Sister Peggy for putting this together. Thank you, Janet Charles.
Maureen just said that if you ever wanted more information on any of the nonprofits here in Rockland County, there are nonprofits here that are probably the same type of nonprofits in every county in New York State and then beyond the borders of New York State. And especially between Diane and myself, we really do have our hand on the pulse of the nonprofits here in the county. So we'd be able to really help you, even if you're looking at possibly looking for an internship or to do some service project. I mean, I've connected a couple of the students with the nonprofits here. So, and there's a few more on the horizon that we'll be looking at.
Or if you want to help out on
Right.
November
Tuesday,
28th.
Right, the Joy Project.
Contact Professor Winship, the more the merrier.
Okay, just one more thing. So thank you to Dr. Engels, Dr. Mehal,
Right.
Professor Winship, Mary Boda, Dean Murphy, and thank you to you all for coming out. If you haven't already filled out the second
Right.
side of that survey, please do it and just drop it on that red tablecloth on your way out.